Useful thing that we picked up, and this has come from one of our supplier visits that we did that I've stolen. The useful thing that was actually mentioned about how we're currently living. It's the most complex times of our lives, 24/7, everybody's working, you're on iPhones and all the rest. And that's a statement that was made by Tony Manning in 2001 at the South African Directors Institute. It's now 18 years down the line. What would he be thinking now? So Australia, a little country, small place, you can fit 8 South Africas into it, with coal, base metals, gold, and iron ore pretty much dominating the environment, the whole area. Last year's exports, 200 million tons of coking coal, 200 million tons of thermal coal. Export, 846 million tons of iron ore. Most of it direct ship ore, very little beneficiated. Scrape it, rape it off the ground, stick it on a ship, send it to China. The interesting part for Australia, recently 4 lithium plants that have been built in the last year. That's bringing our total to 7. They're planning another 8 lithium plants in Australia in the next year and a half. It's booming, that's the next boom mineral, and there's a lot of business to be had there and a lot of challenges that Multotec can provide a service for in the lithium. The other big mine site that is coming along, if the government regulates it and allows environmental regulation for coal mines to continue, 50 million tons a year at the Carmichael Adani project in Queensland, being held back by environmental issues around the Great Barrier Reef and how do we actually be socio-economic inside the current mining environment. Mount Pleasant, heavily supported by Multotec product at the bottom, coming online, being commissioned by DRA currently, and that's the 2 new upgrade projects. So that's going to bring potentially an extra 100 million tons into Australia in the next year of exports. Lithium spread around the West Australian operation, 4 new plants built in the last year, most of those products coming from South Africa. Pilbara Minerals, Pilgangoora and Altura Pilgangoora with equipment coming from South Africa on SGS and MSP and DRA sites. So it is something that there's a South African contingent on project design coming into Australia. There's also 2 upgrade projects currently being worked on. We spoke to Jeremy Bosman yesterday in his presentation mentioning Galaxy. They're all trying to upgrade, beneficate lithium to get it out to Tesla, to Audi e-trons, all of those vehicles as soon as possible. And then the iron ore projects that are coming along, 80 million tons of iron ore being replaced from the Yandi complex by South Flank. Multotec's looking very well placed for all of that business. And Kudaderi, which is a Rio Tinto site, which is a 45 million ton a year plant, is the first time in 50 years the Australians actually have to stop doing direct ship ore and actually extract material beneficiated through a DMS process or HMS process. So the easy iron ore is starting to leave Australia. The harder iron ore is going to start coming back into it. So suppliers that are very skilled at HMS are going to be coming more and more to the fore rather than the simple crush and screen type of applications. Looking at Multotec's solution strategy on how we provide product into the market in Australia, everything is about the commercials and what the market has to invest to get your product, the performance of that product in terms of accuracy, misplaced material, fines in lump, lump-ins fines, how much capacity that product can put through the screen, and how long it lasts, all comes into play. The challenge with screening and cyclones and anything else, if you tend to pull up one, if your reliability needs to increase and make things last longer, which one are you giving up? You can't get reliability, capacity, and accuracy all together without new technology. You're literally playing with a credit card that's got 100 units. If you've got 33 units in reliability, 33 units in accuracy, and 33 units in capacity, you can't just sneak an extra, you can't take credit from the bank and increase your product. The other aspect that Multotec's added recently into our strategy in Australia is we do all of the installation work for all panels in Australia. So instead of just selling product, we sell services. It's become an expected part of the Australian landscape that we actually install the panels, we maintain the panels, we monitor the panels. We are responsible for every single aspect of those panels on the site in terms of forecasting when we need them, working safely. A single injury can shut a mine site in Australia. Roy Hill recently had a single hammer strike changing opposition panels. It stopped them for a day and a half. That's 9 screens at 2,000 tons an hour. They weren't very happy. And event time, any sort of downtime, doing that maintenance, it needs to be as short as possible so you can get your teams in and get them going. Development, which Multotec is all about. The more we develop new technology, you get an extra credit card. All of a sudden, instead of your $100 for spending on reliability, capacity, and accuracy, you get a little bit more that you can spend and you can make things last longer. So development is always a critical aspect. And together they all roll up into what we call total cost of ownership, which BHP, Rio Tinto, and FMG, Glencore in Australia are totally focused on. Everything is now on whether they're buying toilet paper, whether they are buying screen media, cyclones, aeroplane flights. It's a total cost of ownership model. How much is this little purchase that I'm doing adding cost to my production cost for my iron ore? FMG currently have the lowest. Minas Rios would have is it Vale, S11D, starting to get close to FMG. FMG C1 costs down to $8 per ton. So effectively, even if the iron ore price is still low, because they're controlling their costs so well, they're still making a lot of money. So looking at Multotec supply into Australia, for interest for some people, we tend to supply a lot of product inside Australia, from South Africa, from Chile. We've become a true multinational company. We supply standardized product that is equalized, normalized, and everything's the same quality, everything's the same product, everything's, whether we make it in Chile, South Africa, or in Australia, it looks the same, it smells the same, and it's the same material. Very useful way of operating. And we do interact with our support companies from Europe and America. It's very important to be collaborating across the world to maintain that technology around the world. So anytime we take a comprehensive approach looking at the mine sites, it's seeing the entire picture. It's not just good at looking at one little area. You've got to understand the inputs, the outputs, what the downstream, upstream processes are, what's changing in the mining, what's happening in underground, what's happening in the open pits, what's going to have an effect. Understanding and knowing their process more than the customer sometimes, so that you can become a trusted advisor. You're not just a supplier, you're not just a vendor. And understanding those actual needs, not perceived needs, what somebody wants, but helping people determine what actual needs are, supply the equipment and start the whole process again. A little bit of a spoiler alert, we are showing some examples of what we've done in Australia. So, simple screen. Most people wouldn't have seen a screen operating like this when it runs. 3,200 tons an hour, 450 millimeter top size, running onto 70 millimeter rubber screens. Okay, that's what it looks like. That's, if you take the dollar rates at the bottom, you're currently selling this morning's spot price for 62% iron ore was $68 a ton. So in one day, if there's one day's downtime that's unplanned, that's $5.2 million of lost revenue for that one screen going down. It's a different scale. The discussion is South African pilot plants versus the Australian big plants, purely because of labor. Everything is very big over there. Changing panels that last only a few weeks, change it over to the hard ox, and we've had extensions significantly longer, up to 8 weeks, 12 weeks. Everything that we're doing in terms of aperture optimization, short slots versus long slots, it's understanding what is actually happening with a product when the product's going through the aperture. You cannot run product with short apertures if it starts wearing and it skips over the top of the apertures. You've lost half your screen. Sean discussed yesterday about hybrid decks using the right panels in the right areas. The feed on a banana screen is 3.8 meters per second in the feed in that first slope. The material's dropping 1 millimeter as it passes that aperture. If it's a 20 mil particle, it hasn't fallen far enough to even get into that aperture. It just skips over the top. So understanding these things is very critical into the process. Material engineering, Multotec developed about 2 years ago a new rubber, our 2265. Just by changing the chemical composition of the rubber, you get 3 times more life. That's the IP of dealing with the Multotec, where we can actually generate technologies, extend our polymer engineering, make things happen for customers. O slots and standard slots. You don't want your screening to be looking like this. That's what the opposition product was. Nothing went through that screen. If you're losing product through that screen and you're having to recirculate it at $5 million a day, it's a lot of lost revenue. So switching to O slots has saved FMG from not being able to operate to being able to operate. And we've actually got a commendation letter from FMG for that work on O slots. So it's a very useful, optimize what the customer needs, provide the solution for that customer. So, final result after all of that work of optimizing everything is a screen deck that looks like that after 13 weeks. If anybody's interested, the 100 millimeter thick panels are just around the corner in the Multotec stand here. Those panels run 13 weeks and they are finished. That's 100 millimeter thick panels. That was our target. We started at 2 weeks. We ended up at 13 weeks. So we've done quite well, haven't we? Did okay? Unfortunately, we've got customers that are telling us this. This is Tim Pratt, who's an engineering manager at South 32. Doesn't matter if you've got the best product, if you've got in-depth technical skill, you've got an attractive price. That's nice for today. Tomorrow, it's not going to be enough. Today, it's just a qualifier. If you've got all of that stuff, we'll give you the business today. We're not going to guarantee you anything for tomorrow. What they're wanting is a partner that's going to actually work with them to shape their future. And that's an interesting statement from a lot of our customers currently, is actually the thing to shape the future. Help them determine where they're going in their journey. So let's talk about where we're going in the future. So BHP, FMG, Roy Hill, Newmont, Glencore, Taliesin, BMA, everybody's put out new roadmaps to technology. Improve safety, reduce your costs, increase production. It sounds the same thing it's been doing for the last 50 years. Maximize your price levers. Quality is everything now in iron ore and coal. People don't want to be shipping ash. People don't want to be shipping low-grade material. Everything is becoming an upgrade. That's why Rio Tinto is spending billions of dollars on Kudaderi to be able to put a beneficiation plant in where they could have gone the route of running a standard direct ship ore plant. It extends their life of mine. It gives them a premium product that they can get up to $6 a ton extra on top of the iron ore spot price. The only people that are really good is BHP. They've got the best tenements in the country. They just take it out the ground and send it to China, and it's already at 63%. And the other big thing that we're finding is reduce your environmental footprint and be socially responsible. Stop noise, stop dust. Don't do damage to the environment while you're mining. Difficult things for the miners to do. In 2015, BHP brought out a whole roadmap, and this is the critical part for people to understand about Australia, and it'll eventually come into South Africa because labour prices are going to come up and everything's going to change. Notice how many workers are on the mine site with a few people in the offices supporting the operations in the mine. This is available. If anybody wants a copy, Vivian will be able to give it to you. By 2019, they literally were targeting having 2 to 3 guys on site. In reality, Nathan's our BHP rep. They're talking anything down to 10% of their current staffing levels by the end of next year. So on a mine site doing 50 million tons a year, their maximum people on the process plant is 3. That's the sparky, that's the operator, that's everybody. There'll be 3 people on that mine site. Everything else will be living in a little room in Perth. By 2024, they don't want anybody on site. It'll literally be interconnected decision-making between suppliers and owners of the mines. Everybody will be talking the same language. All products will be connected. Your product will be telling you. There's a smart panel here, which is our journey into where we're going with technology. The product will be telling you, I'm sick, I need changing, I'm going to live for the next 4 weeks, do something please. Nobody's going to be on the mine site to listen to that or look at it or look at the hole or see the hole. And by 2029, BHP's plan, and that is 10 years away, there's going to be nobody on the mine. The plant will be building itself with robots. That's their stated goal. And they're investing billions of dollars to get there, because it saves money for them in their total cost of ownership drive. So what does that mean for Multotec? Currently, if you're looking at Australia, automated dump trucks. You only saw that when he was over in Australia. Rio Tinto now run the biggest fleet. BHP's fast approaching. FMG's pretty much fully autonomous. There isn't a single driver in a single dump truck. They managed to extend the life of them dump trucks by 6 times. They've got people operating in the market that they don't have to have graders because the trucks jitter and move alongside as they're operating. It's critical technology. Rio Tinto sent their first train off fully unmanned, 700 kilometers, from picking it up all the way to the dumper, loading into the dumper and moving on. And their control units now look like that. If you want to turn a valve on a plant on, if you want to start a pump, if you want to check a pressure, you phone, and somebody in Perth, Brisbane, and in BHP's case, if you're on night shift, somebody in Somerset, England is going to turn your pump on for you. Nobody's on the sites anymore. So, our challenges in terms of talking to the future, we have to work safe, we have to take into consideration the FIFO workers, fly-in remote workers in Australia. We have to work with remote operations people. They don't want us on site, they want other people to be looking at it. They want our systems to be telling us when they need changing. They want safe commodity market adaptability. If something changes in the market, if the zinc price goes up and everybody wants to make as much zinc as we can, and we need to adapt, they want a supplier that's going to be able to adapt as quickly as possible to ride that boom, not wait for 6 months to get everything working. They want to make as much tons now before the commodity cycle drops off. Timed maintenance interventions with absolute reliability. They don't want people on site. They want your product to last 13 weeks. They don't want to see you between 13 weeks. They'll fly a team up to do the work in 13 weeks' time. Thank you. Hopefully your product works, because if it doesn't, you're going to be on penalties. This is the reality of what's coming in the future. Stretching those performance expectations. 13 weeks now, it's going to be 24 weeks in the near future. We must still have perfect cut points, perfect capacity, and 24 weeks life. That's the cycle. If we can't do it, somebody else is going to give them the option. Environmental impacts, it's becoming a big thing in Australia as the governments change and more of the Labour government and the green powers get into power again. That is creating more of a drive to be able to get environmental recycling. And the big one that we need to look at is new technologies to mine today's impossible. Dry screening, optical sorting, all those new technologies that are in infancy and starting to develop and grow. There may be 5 or 6 new technologies out there shortly that we're going to look at. I won't go into too much details other than everything we've discussed. How's Multotec going to approach it? And with a customer and BHP, Roy Hill, everybody, robotic remote installations, modular subsystems. They don't want to be having a single little product anymore, because if you can use a robot, it can pick up 500 kilograms. So everything that you're doing is a 500 kilogram module that can go in. So the restrictions we're living with today are going to go away. New restrictions and challenges are going to come today. Everything that we're doing in terms of active AR, augmented reality. I don't know if anybody played with the HoloLens yesterday that was on the stand. Very interesting technology, because you can actually 3D map, have a look, see what's around you, and you can actually compare what's happening and not happening with product. Using the MultConnect 4 equipment, every single product becomes intelligent, smart lifter bars, smart panels, smart cyclones, smart everything. Australians don't want people to be looking at whether the cyclone's roping. It should be telling you there's something wrong. It's telling you it's sick, it needs replacing. So everything we're doing in terms of this is trying to meet those expectations that the customer's given us. So the challenge and change that's happening is it used to be a willing buyer, willing seller arrangement. I've got a product, you've got a need, here's your purchase order, there's your production, go. What we found recently, and it's becoming more and more engaged, is that the supplier is expected to be involved in specification, lab testing, through design, validation, commissioning, getting my plant up and running. And then we start it all again, and we go through requirements, validation, design, make your parts. At every single point, the customer's asking us to be involved. It's becoming a true partnership mesh, which is very empowering for them because they've realized that working with the suppliers, they can get those lofty goals that they've set themselves of mining the moon. Because what the statement from BHP is, we'd never be able to mine asteroids or outer space if we can't mine what's up in the Pilbara 2,000 kilometers away remotely. It's a valid point. Once you've finished all of that, that's your job done for that single job. Because tomorrow the targets are going to stretch again. Rinse that cycle, repeat it, and carry on going and doing it again. Real-time data acquisition, big data, monitoring, analysis, and rapid prototype developing cycles is going to be the keywords that everybody wants. So Multotec currently, where are we now? Augmented reality, that's in the office. You can literally place any part over any of your existing components. You can do 3D mapping. You can talk to a salesman that's 2,000 kilometers away, or a screen technician looking at a BLUECHIP screen and talk him through how to fix it without having to have your specialists on site. Very useful technology, already starting to be used by Sydney Water, Melbourne Water. They never even have to look on the map where the pipes are anymore because they wear the glasses. The pipes are all drawn on the road. They can take a piece of chalk, mark a road, and dig there. In terms of Multotec's other operations, the BLUECHIP air springs, we've got our first 3 installations going in Australia. Saves a lot of energy, stops all vibrations. 7 to 12 year life out of spring elements. It's exactly what the customer's looking for. And intelligence built into those spring elements allow us to remotely adjust screen suspension. You can put more air in, less air. You can change the stiffness and spring ratios from a computer. You can automatically balance your screen left and right from a computer anywhere in the world, sitting on a beach in Hawaii, sipping a few tequilas. So I'm not going to go through every single example, but long term what the customers are expecting is a complete suite of us controlling what's happening on their mine site. Data coming in, what's been changed, what's sick and needing work, what is our predictive maintenance, big data, when are we going to change? And that's everything to do with cost per ton, can we reduce it over time, cyclones, mills, screens. So, in conclusion, our success currently is not coincidental. We've worked pretty hard to get that successful case. We've gone from our 2 weeks to our 13 weeks. We've given people cyclones that are not misplacing everything that's going into it, and not roping at every opportunity. We've given scrubber liners that have extended life at a lot of the iron ore mine sites. A lot of the copper sites are running with the composite grade plates, giving them massive throughput potentials. But that's just a start. The purchase order's been delivered. We've delivered the parts. That's where the technology ends. Tomorrow, they all want new stuff. So hopefully in 2 years' time we can actually talk about the journey, and we can actually say that we've been through that. And in 2 years' time, we've got a lot more examples of how we're helping BHP to get to their targets, Roy Hill to get to their targets. And unfortunately, whether we like it or not, that's going to be the new reality. And South Africa in the future is probably going to have to embrace that. You might be 2-3 years behind, but everything we've spoken about now might see it a long way away and in the horizon. But I believe it's probably maybe 3 years away from here. Might not be at the electromining, but in 4 years' time, everybody's going to be doing this. Okay.